Meeting started. It is 6:40 p.m. It's a special notice of, a notice of a special meeting. The Board of Aldermen of the City of Brookshire will conduct a special meeting on Tuesday, August the 16th, 2022, at 6:30 p.m. in the council chambers of the Brookshire Municipal Building located at 4029 Fifth Street. Before we get started, I would like to have a prayer. Mr. Rodney, you want to give a prayer for us?
Dear Lord, thank you for these bountiful blessings that we receive on a daily basis. We ask that you give us wisdom and knowledge to do your work and the work of the people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And Mr. Rodney, can you do the roll call?
Mayor Branch,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Branch,
Here.
Alderwoman Taylor,
Here.
Alderman Hill,
Present.
Alderwoman Newendorf,
Present.
Alderman Stitt.
Present.
You have the floor, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next is, agenda is public comments. Do we have anyone that would like to speak in public comments?
Should I come up here, or?
Yeah, you can. State your name for us, please.
My name is Tony Lewis, Lewis. I'm with Century Engineering, Inc., in Houston, Texas. My client is Vinod Kankani. I've been trying to get on your agenda. I sent 2 emails to one to Ms. Marks and one to Ms. Harrison, and I was wondering why I was not on this agenda or on Thursdays. And nowhere on your website do I see a way to contact you to get on the agenda.
And
What
you-
is the process?
And you filled out the agenda form?
I did not find an agenda form.
You have to get one from,
My emails were unresponded to.
well, that's probably the reason why. But, Mr. Rodney, you have one of those forms, don't you?
Yes, sir, I can get one.
Before you leave, can you fill out one, then you'll be set?
Yes, or if I could speak for a moment, I can
You
get this
can speak.
done, like 60 seconds.
Go ahead.
Just so you know, since there's public comment, we can't take any action. There's not an agenda item, so just so your comments are going to be comments to the council.
Okay, I'll get on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Lewis, I wasn't trying to shut you down.
I understand.
If you feel like you're going to talk, I was saying they can't take any action tonight on anything, so. But if you can get with
I'm
the city staff.
very thankful you said that. I don't know what way-
How long ago has this been?
I sent an email on August 4th
Okay.
to both Ms. Marks and Ms. Harrison.
Okay. Okay.
But I think you might have seen me here over a month ago or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here on the same item.
Okay.
My client has a permit from the drainage district to build a detention pond, and the district's ready to, and he's already constructing it right now with oversight of the drainage district, but some of his land is in the city, and he's working on, he's got a permit under review and a plat under review, and he just wants permission to continue construction without a permit. The drainage district's doing all the inspections and everything, and as soon as his permit is from y'all is issued, they'll be able to do all the inspections and everything they need. He just has a contractor that's running out of time to build it.
And what do you mean by construction? You mean
It's a detention
pond?
pond.
Okay,
So basically, it's a
Digging it
hole
out.
in the ground and easily inspected.
right. Okay.
Could you instruct him to give that right back to Rodney where the mayor can get it? Please.
And Mr. Lewis, whenever you fill that out, if you give it back to Rodney, we'll have it, we can process it,
Right now?
start processing it right now.
Okay. Next agenda item is discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 22-698-15, an ordinance of the City Council, City of Brookshire, Texas, adopting an annual audit financial statement for the fiscal year of 2020 and 2021. That's you, sir?
Okay, fantastic. Good evening, my name is Robert Belt. I'm the managing partner of Belt Harris Pahacek, your audit firm. And I'll tell you just a little bit about my background. I've been doing municipal audits for approximately 30 years. We audit about 150 governments across the state of Texas. About 40 of those are municipal city type institutions. We audit the Harris County Appraisal District, one of the largest in the United States. We audit the Houston Harris County Sports Authority, which owns Minute Maid Park, Reliant Stadium, so all those entities. So again, we work with some very large institutions and also some very small cities and school districts and counties and things like that along the way. In addition to doing financial statements audits, I also do forensic type investigations and have worked with FBI, numerous district attorneys and things of that nature. So we're available to do that type of work if that is warranted as well. But I'm here today to present the financial statements for the city. The city has engaged us to audit your financial statements. So I just want to make that really clear that what we've been asked to do is audit your financial statements and say, are these financial statements fairly presented? Because you potentially will be using these financial statements to give to grantor agencies, to give to banks, to give to credit rating agencies and things of that nature. So that's what we've been asked to do to make sure that they're materially correct. Also want to make sure that that's understood. They don't have to be perfect, they have to be materially correct. So we've issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level assurance that we can provide to the city council that all the disclosures required by generally accepted accounting principles have been included and that the financial statements are materially correct. And so that is exactly the type of opinion you would want to be receiving tonight. That allows you to go out and get grants, that allows you to go out and get financing, all the things you need. So that's the type of opinion you want to have on your financial statement. Anything less than that is crippling to the organization to get anything less than that. So that is good news for you to have. There's a lot of financial information in the report, and it's easy to get really bogged down and confused, okay, with it, and I fully understand that. If you're only gonna look at one page in the whole document, page 22 is the page to look at. And financial rating agencies are gonna drill down and automatically look at one number on here, or one percentage, do one quick calculation of a percentage to find out where the city stands. They're gonna look at your ending fund balance in comparison to your operating budget to determine what your reserve is. And you hear a lot of discussion in Texas about the rainy day fund and things of that nature, but you need to have so many days of fund balance on hand as a percentage of your operating budget. So 30 days would be considered low, 60 days would be considered good, 90 days would be very good. Okay, you are over 90%, so you are very good. What's remarkable to me is approximately 15 years ago when I came out here and first worked on the audit, the fund balance was actually negative at that time, okay? So it is very difficult to build up your fund balance when you don't have an enormous tax base and you have a low tax base. There's no sky rises, There's no refineries, there's nothing like that to help support a high tax rate. So it is very difficult for you to build up that fund balance. So that, again, that is excellent news for you beginning tonight, is that fund balance percentage. Revenues for the year came in, and we'll cut my glasses out. Okay. Broken pair of glasses? Okay, here we go. Get my eyes on. So in the general fund, revenues for the year came in at $5,472,000. Expenditures came in at $4,920,000. You had some operating financing sources and uses of approximately $60,000. That gave an increase of $612,000 for the year. That is a very large increase in comparison to your previous fund balance. Your previous fund balance was $909,000, and again, that gets you up to a fund balance of $1,521,000. And when you compare that to your operating expenditures of $4.9 million, that's approximately 30%. So again, that is excellent news. Debt service fund has an ending fund balance of $2,651. The Economic Development Corporation has an ending fund balance of $1,356,000, and your special revenue funds have a fund balance of $598,000. FERS number 1 has an ending fund balance of $31,539. Anything else that I wanted to highlight to you?
I want you to highlight the debt services because I'm not understanding that.
Okay. The debt service activity, or
The numbers that you came up with,
for the debt service?
yes.
Okay, now this is we're clear, this is debt service fund, okay, and so there's a bucket held just for the debt service. So the ending fund balance is $2,651. So that's how much money is in the bank in the debt service fund.
There's a statement in here that says you basically audited 4 accounts. The, I think, general fund, special revenue, and 2 other, and I was trying to get back to that particular piece of paper. Wanted you to expound on that and kind of clarify what you mean by special reserve, or special revenue, what all that entails.
I'm not sure which statement you're referring to.
It's on page 18 of
Thank you, Ms. Branch.
what we just read off of, page 18.
Are you talking about just, okay,
If you look, you'll see general debt service, Brookshire Economic Development Corporation, and special revenue.
okay. So are you wanting to know what makes up the special revenue
Yep.
funds? I got it earmarked, earmark the pages. I thought there would be a supporting schedule at the back, but there is not on that one. So off the top of my head, I do not know what comprises it.
Do you know what,
That's typically, what it's typically going to be is municipal court fees that have been designated for security, for sidewalks, things of that nature. If you've had any park monies donated, that would potentially be in a special revenue fund. So those are the types of things that would normally be there. But I can go back and look into that.
I mean, I'm going through some paperwork now, and I showed 13 different accounts that we have at Wells Fargo, minimally. There's still some more reports I've got to look at. So I'm kind of confused on how we have just 4 categories.
Okay, well, that's easier to explain. Within
Let's
the
go there.
general fund, you could have 60 different bank accounts. So that there is not a limit to a number of bank accounts or investment accounts or
That pull
things of
into
that
that one?
nature that could be in any given fund.
What?
But each bank account does have a home in terms of, it does have a fund that it is associated with.
Could you explain to me, or to the council, I'm sorry? We'll just take the general fund. Why would we have, we'll pick a number 7, lucky number 7. Why would we have 7 accounts for the general fund? And if you can't answer that, that's fine.
Yeah, it's really a management question. I can give you some just general reasons why one might do it, but.
I don't do
the
general well.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know the specific reason why.
Okay, I'll ask Mr. Chambers.
I'll say it like this, though, it wouldn't be uncommon.
That's fair enough.
We audit 150 governments, it would not be uncommon. You typically have some small accounts, like I mentioned, like the Parks Fund. Somebody comes in and gives $30,000 for the bank account. Maybe you don't want to open up a special revenue fund just for that. So you keep it in the general fund, but you earmark it and then put it in its own bank account to note that it's special. So you'd want to go back and look at what it would typically say on the bank account what each of those designated uses are. So again, that would just, I'm speculating, that would be my speculation.
It's just funny that we got $1,118,000 that's in special revenue that we can't.
I can
Really?
identify specifically
I'm
what
not
it is. I
trying-
just can't do it right at this moment.
I'm not trying to kill you, sir.
That's
I'm
all right.
just,
I'm good.
if it helps your feelings, I've never voted for the audit ever, and I've been here for 14 years, so.
Well, I'm looking for your support tonight. Okay, page 31, there's a footnote on what comprises the special revenue fund. And apparently it's only one thing, and it's made up of the hotel motel tax dollars. That's what's in there.
What page did you say?
On page 31 at the
Page
top,
31, there's a paragraph related to the special revenue fund.
special revenue funds, revenues, fund is used to account for the hotel motel tax dollars restricted to promote tourism, fines, forfeitures, et cetera.
You would say generally the special revenue fund.
Oh,
you
the
see
special
are
revenue.
earmarked or
I'm sorry.
designated to different
Is
funds.
there usually a legal restriction on the use of the money to make them a special revenue fund?
Is HERS revenue then, would that also be a special revenue fund?
It is in its own top category of accounts, but it is held out separately.
What about for like our courts restrictive technology fund?
It can be presented in a special revenue fund, and that was my first assumption, is this was gonna be a combination thing, but it can also be put in the general fund. So there's not a requirement to set up a separate thing. So sometimes with the smaller funds, it becomes administratively burdensome to create a special fund just for those types of money.
That's why I was wondering, why do we have all these accounts and we can't keep up with a contract, but that's my thought.
I mean, is there anywhere in here that states your general fund includes these accounts? And we audited every single one of these.
But what we have is, there's a supporting document that goes between the city's general ledger and this report. And it's a report, and it shows what accounts were added up to arrive at these numbers. And so that's what you're looking for. So specifically what you want to do is you want to look at that cash number for the general fund. Do that. So on page 18, at the very top of the page, left-hand column is the general fund. There's $1,887,000 in cash and cash equivalents. And so the city has a report that shows all of the bank accounts that were added up to arrive at that amount. You can't go specifically off of the bank statement amount because there may be reconciling outstanding checks and deposits. You have to look at the bank reconciliation at that dollar amount to make sure you're matching them up. But if you're trying to kind of audit the information and go back and see what comprises it, that's what I would encourage you to do.
Does anyone have any information on if the city has any long-term outstanding debts at the moment?
We do not. We knocked those outstanding debts out. In 2013, we were already in the red, and it might been a little earlier than that, Ms. Neuendorf. And we had credit cards up in Ohio and a couple of different places. And
Ohio.
we went ahead and consolidated all the debt,
See the current ones?
paid it off completely. And yes, we operated in the red, begged, borrowed, and stole quite a bit to make the rest of the year. But we left the city in Mayor Vaughn's days in completely operating in the black.
Over on page 15 is a statement of net position. And I try not to get too far off the numbers, but I also want to give you the details so you're hungry tonight, and so I want to make sure you have the information you're looking for. But over on page 15 is the statement of net position. This statement is presented on the full accrual base of accounting, which is just like you would for a corporate entity. And on this base of accounting, it's taking into account both long-term assets and long-term liabilities. And so if you had bonded debt, notes payable, outstanding, this would be where they would appear at. And so right now, your only liabilities is accounts payable, what you owe vendors, an unearned revenue, which is a different class of income that you just haven't recognized yet, compensated absences, vacation that you owe to your employees, and then your pension liabilities. And that's really your only debt that's outstanding. And so in comparison to your assets, that's pretty impressive.
But this is based on, I mean, you audited the documents that were given to you, correct?
Yes,
Were you given any credit card statements?
to my knowledge, I'm
Okay. I mean, we've seen credit card statements in our invoices to approve, and then we've also heard that there are other credit cards that we're not receiving statements of in our meetings. So I guess I was saying the $2,600 for our ending fund balance is a little bit concerning if we potentially have any other outstanding liabilities that need to be taken care of.
sorry, what number did you say for fund balance?
2,600 ending fund balance for debt services.
Okay. And that would be the correct amount for the debt service fund, but that balance would not be associated with credit card debt. The credit card debt will be an obligation of the general fund.
Okay, I thought you mentioned credit cards a second ago when you were talking about debt services.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I could have missed up.
I think you'll see, Calvin, we haven't done this yet, but the tax rate, when that gets presented for adoption, there's always, you prove that in two parts. One's the maintenance operations, and then it's the debt service fund. There's, as far as I know, since I've been here, it's been 0 for the debt service, because you
Okay.
don't have these long-standing obligations.
Okay.
I don't like to
We can
pay
keep it that way.
interest. I don't like to pay late fees either, but we do.
page 44, there's a little table up there. One of the things we have not talked about is your Texas Municipal Retirement System, the pension liability. This is often an issue for cities or governmental entities that have a substantial pension liability. City of Houston is substantially broke when it comes to their pension liability. So, again, it's important to kind of look at this number and kind of put it in perspective. But at the top of page 44, there's the center number there shows a discount rate of 6.75%, and that's what TMRS's actuaries use to compute what the liability is, which is $418,000, which this number is kind of like a mortgage on a house. It's typically a really large number as comparison to your fund balance. That's a fairly small number in comparison to your fund balance, so that's a good number. It also, they present what happens if they were wrong and the discount rate goes up or down 1%. Well, if it goes the bad way, that liability jumps up to 1.4 million. If it goes the good way, then you actually end up having an asset with TMRS, which is really unusual, okay? So again, that tells me that you've got a good number here in terms of your pension liability.
I was looking on page 41, and it was sort of funny that you brought up page 44, because it says inactive employees or beneficiaries currently receiving benefits is 13. But
Yeah, it's 4 on the next page.
I don't know how to say this and not be morbid.
It's 6, actually.
Yeah, that information is provided by TMRS.
What she's saying is that the city has lost some employees who have paid into that account and they are no longer around
Okay,
on the earth.
okay. Okay.
And so, would that not affect that number? Do y'all pay attention to that number? Because 41 inactive employees entitled to but not yet receiving, does that include the
That reflect our-
loss of people that's no
Previously.
longer here on
If
earth?
they were, I think if they had passed and their spouse was receiving the benefits, they're not an inactive employee not receiving benefits. Somebody's actually receiving benefits.
Okay, that makes sense. I
They've
apologize.
left the city, but they're still working. I think that's what that basically means.
And you put that so eloquently, Justin. Thank you.
One other item I'll bring to your attention, again, I'm trying to provide as much comfort as anything else, but on page 47, again, top of page, same table that we were just looking at, this is a different type of account. This is called the other post-employee benefits. And again, City of Houston, you hear a lot about this. They have an enormous number out there that's almost bankrupting the city. This is your supplemental death benefits for your TMRS fund. That's what this is related to. And that number is, I say only, it's $90,000, but in our world, that's nothing. That is just an extremely small number. So again, if I'm a credit rating agency and I flip to this page and look at that number, that gives me a lot of comfort. Y'all don't have a huge liability out there.
What was your question? Which one was it? Which one was it? Which one you said you understand? I thought you said you understand.
Oh, no, no, I was looking at,
The pension.
yeah, that's what I was looking. Got me confused.
I know those.
The only thing I'm curious about at the moment is on page 53.
Okay.
I was just, oh,
We have a line item for fire and ambulance. And it looks like we budgeted 34.7. A budget amendment was made to 53.4, and we spent 33.6. But I was under the impression we did not have a fire department. So how is money spent for a fire department line item that does not exist?
It helps your feelings any. The reason I've never voted for it, Ms. Neuendorf made a point a while ago. They only can audit what they're given.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the other gentleman or this gentleman here.
Yeah, I don't expect him to have intimate knowledge of the answer to that question. I'm just curious on that.
You may not know off the top of your head, but I think the only thing that I would, and again, I don't know the answer to that question, only thing I think it might reflect is that, from what I understand, the city pays insurance, or did pay insurance on the volunteer fire department vehicles. And that may be, but I don't know, it'd be that amount.
But I mean, they've been in a lease agreement since 2019 with other entities.
But the city still, Justin's right. I'm so proud of you, Justin.
That's a heck of an insurance policy for dormant vehicles.
But we have to keep the insurance on it, just in case that building catches a fire. Just in case
Storm.
somebody steals one of them out of the fire
Okay,
department.
so then I'm
runs
gonna
over-
assume, then, when we went through the budget process,
It should have been listed
well,
in the general fund under insurance,
Okay.
not the fire department.
but who requested a budget amendment
Right.
to bump it up to 53.4
And then not even spend the original budgeted amount.
if we're just paying insurance?
Let's ring up Miss Harrison.
I think we should.
I mean, because the actual spent was only 33.6, the original budgeted amount of 34.7 would have covered that anyway.
I mean, 'cause if it's
I
just
can barely
insurance.
hear you guys, but I heard,
So that, it sounds like that what the issue is there's a portion of the audit that shows that there was, what was it, 33.6?
34.7.
34.7 was
So
budgeted.
There was a budgeted, so in the 2021 budget, there was a $33,000 budget item that for fire and. what's the-
ambulance.
Fire and ambulance.
Fire and ambulance expenses. A budget amendment was done to bring that up to $54,000, but the actual amount actually spent on that budget item was less than what was budgeted.
Effectively wouldn't be paying anything.
So the question is, what,
Right, 'cause it's a county
you know,
service.
what was that line item for? And where did the, if you can recall, where did the budget amendment come from?
I would have to go and pull that, spreadsheet that got sent over, yeah.
Well,
Spreadsheet, you sent them or they sent you?
Mr. Hill's
Because
question,
it could have just, is it on the actual, you're saying expenditures for that building over there, the equipment?
I think that's what we're asking.
Yeah, no, I would, if there was an amendment to that budget, I'd have to pull the, whatever was sent from Mr. Chambers for those amendments that the council would have approved. And because it tells you in that what it was for. It's written out in that spreadsheet that's given to us what it's for. And I could send that out to everybody.
If at any time there becomes a question as to what makes up a specific account, you can simply just print out the activity of that account, and it will show everything that was reported there and what it was for. So that's your, if you want to exercise your authority to look into these things, that's what I would do to increase my comfort level, is ask for the printout of everything that comprises of that account. If a budget amendment comes before you, then make sure you have adequate support behind that amendment. You know specifically what they are amending it for, so that when you approve it, you're comfortable with that approval process.
Totally understand.
That's
I just don't understand how amendment could be brought before this body if we don't have a department.
right.
So I'd like to know who requested that amendment and what it was for.
But while you're on that page,
When and how it was approved.
I noticed numbers all over the page except the actual amount for the Youth Advisory Council. Could you explain that under expenditures, sir?
Oh, we didn't get it.
Are you asking me to explain the zero balance account?
Yes, sir.
It would appear that the city council adopted a budget amount for it, but then no monies were expended for that
Well,
particular activity.
See, but that's not true and correct. That youth council had several trips. They bought shirts. There was other things that was expenditures. And we got a zero right there. That's why I can't.
The last two
I
questions I
can,
have.
I'll have to print out a detail on that as well.
Kind of why it would have been important to have her present. Under revenues, page 53, charges for services. Can Ms. Harrison speak to that? Because we originally budgeted 0, then it jumped up to 225,000.
Where are you, Mr. Hill?
Page
Same
53.
page, 53, under revenues at the top.
What would that be considered?
Did you hear that, Claudia?
No, I can barely hear them.
They're looking on page, I don't know if you have the audit in front of you, they're looking on page
Yes.
on page 53,
This is a joke.
there was,
She's not here.
Charges of service.
the charges of services, there was a big jump. And they just want to know what
There-
the,
There was a zero budgeted for, but somehow $225,000 got into the final budget, so somebody done a budget, you know what I'm trying to say, budget amendment. And the actual amount that was spent out of there is $224,487, which leaves us in the negative
Well, this is
of
for revenues.
513, but how are we in the negative when we never budgeted anything? It's nothing to do, sir, with your
This one says
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
for revenues.
That's
audit.
revenue.
So it's revenue. So y'all were, what it's saying is that you anticipated zero revenue for charges and services, and all of a sudden we're saying that we're gonna get $250,000 for charges and services. What charges and services? Don't know. But then only collected 224,000, so we missed our income amount by $513.
It appears that public works went up a substantial sum, and so I'm going to assuming that the offset to that was in that area. I don't know off the top of my head what the 225,000 was, but it looks like that was most likely the offset.
and there may be something else there, we can go back and look and see what the budget amendment, 'cause that would have been a council approved action. I know that every year you have, it comes from Mr. Chambers, you have the final true up, budget amendment, it's like, and that's probably where that's probably where that's coming from. Now, there may be an incremental one that happens, some cities do that, incremental budget amendments.
We should every
Yeah,
quarter.
I don't think that you've done that since I've been here.
We
So
don't.
I think it must be from the end of the year true up budget amendment that Mr. Chambers.
Okay. And then same thing for investment income, if she can provide us a report on that.
So Claudia, on that, I think it's on the same page, there's investment income, the same kind of issue where there's just a discrepancy.
The investment incomes is gonna be one of the pools, I must, investment income, yeah, that would have come from, the text pool at that time. I don't know that we had Techstar.
Yeah, I'd like to see a written report on that because the latest statement said we only made like $14 for the last 6 months. So unless we invested a pretty substantial amount,
We just done that at the last council meeting, right, or the council meeting
that's back
before
on the
that?
agenda for Thursday because Ms. Harrison needs to
Oh, yeah, that's good.
address a few items on there.
ask me any questions, as soon as get it.
How do you politely say, sir?
She has this word, I'm sure it's gonna be with an N with a big O. Actually,
You know,
I'd love to be able to go back and tell the rest of my team, yes, I got the vote.
biggest win of the year.
Yeah, it's a big win.
It was Mr. Belt, correct? I mean, you know, I don't want this to be any reflection of you or your team. However, you know, there's some key questions that unfortunately, you know, we can't have answered. At least I'm only one. So I defer to the rest of my council, but I will say I'm getting increasingly frustrated with repeated meetings where the person who holds the access to these reports is not present, cannot provide these reports, and doesn't give us the ability to make educated decisions. And my hope is this is 100% amazing and we can walk away from this smiling and the birds singing and all that jazz. But at the moment, there's too many questions, you know, that need to be answered for me.
If you're not comfortable, I'm not even.
And again, not a reflection of your work.
But
I will believe that it's, you know, done. But again, and like I'd asked Ben, and I apologize, I've lost his last name on me at the moment. Cohen. Our vehicle and equipment report, can we see a copy of that to know what that inventory was that was used to determine that valuation?
There's a capital asset schedule that makes up that
Yep.
dollar amount, the city has it.
And so the discussion was that, you know, tonight,
Did get to see that, but
We'd
we
get to see
haven't got
that.
to see that. I mean,
you know, so,
there's just things that probably has a very simple answer that we just don't get the answer. I don't get the answer. And like I said, it has nothing to do with you and being Mr. Cohen. It's just every year it's the same questions on my part. I mean, I thought it was Mr. Cohen came and said, "Hi, council, I'm here. I'm yada yada," and turn to page 19. Let's go to page 24. Let's turn to page 34. Up, we're done, and somebody's already made the motion, and I'm out of there because I didn't. The motion's on the table, and they're voting, and I didn't even get to ask any questions. So it's definitely not
absolutely not.
y'all's fault at all. It's just me not wanting to go to jail.
I serve on both sides of the table. I've served on a lot of communities before for different entities, and currently serve on the Texas State Securities Board. We have a substantial budget, about 100 professionals work for the organization. And so from my perspective, that comfort level, I think that you're looking for, comes on a monthly basis. It doesn't come at year end, it comes at a monthly basis.
Yes, sir.
If you wait until year end to find out that you've run off the rails, then that's too late.
Right.
You're so true.
You just hit the nail on the head of what we've been asking for every month.
What I would encourage you to do is come up with a standardized list of reports you want to see at every meeting. And if that is a PDF printout of every single transaction that hit every general ledger account, then you have the right to ask for that report as an elected official, but if not that, as an open records request. But you have the ability to get that information, and we're counting on it as your auditors,
Right.
for you to be the stewards of the city's money as
True.
you're going along. So that's why I'm like, if you're concerned, I am too.
Yep.
Okay, because our first faith is on the city, and like you said, you can only audit what you're given. But I've gotta have faith that what I've been given is correct. I can't audit for fraud.
Right.
Right.
So I've got to assume that the information is reasonably correct. We check, we do a risk assessment for fraud, we make inquiries about fraud, we certainly look, everywhere we can. And we, at the end of the day, I feel really good about this report. I feel really good about these numbers. I feel fantastic about the financial condition that the city is in. I don't feel good about your comfort level as board members, where you're at right now with the report process. I will say, probably going a little bit off topic, but Robert Chambers is one of the finest consultants that we've ever used. I worked with him for 10 years at the city of Baytown and for now 10 years at the city of Pasadena. And he's my go-to person, and when the city of Brookshire was struggling, I sent my best guy out here to help me with this project. So I have complete faith in Robert Chambers and his ability. But I would say, you know, at the end of the day, we're accountants are accountants. You know, we just follow instructions. Tell him what you want, and I'm sure he will get you the information that you need, because I want you to have that comfort level.
I'll give you two examples. In the last, and I'll go on the other side of the aisle that you said you were on. In the last council meeting, we were going through invoices, and I assumed we're being presented all invoices, you know, to pay. And I noticed after a few months that we were not having the cell phone bills in there, even just a statement of what the bill due amount was. So I asked about that, and one of our city staff, well-intentioned, said, well, it's kind of like, you know, the credit cards, we don't put those in there either. Well, alarm bell's going off for me.
Okay?
My personal card may be 0 or 20,000, depending if I went to Vegas, you know? So that's kind of a concern. On Mr. Chambers' side, and I'm not suggesting we make any change here, but there's kind of some misnomers, I think, on that too. One indication was he handles our payroll. And I called Mr. Chambers directly, and he said he's never done our payroll. So there's just a lot of, unfortunately for me, all I can say is, you know, if I'd been serving on this council for many years, like some members and former members, to find out that you're missing critical information, I don't know how a single payment was ever approved by this body. You know, so I mean, there's some
Told you.
issues that need to be addressed to give that comfort level that we're not having the wool pull over our eyes.
In regard to your specific issue, and again, I'm sorry I'm getting too far into the weeds, but, you know, my suggestion would be that you adopt a policy of what invoices are gonna come before you. And oftentimes there are some invoices that get excluded out because they're just voluminous, they're standardized, maybe the electric bill, maybe TMRS, things of that nature. But credit cards certainly might be one that would be appropriate to have in and look at.
Absolutely.
Write the policy, make the policy, you're the policy setting body. You write the policy and enforce the policy. Now, that's effectively what you do.
Absolutely.
So I guess we need to make a motion that we put this on the same agenda that that gentleman gave Mr. Rodney, and Ms. Harrison be able to give us those reports where we could be better informed before we move forward.
Is that your motion?
Second.
Oh, my. And doubly it was,
It is now.
Miss Taylor.
And again, thank you for being here. Like I said, I hope the birds are singing when we're all done with this. And
You know, I gotta go back and break the news. I didn't get anybody.
No. Okay, so on the,
give a motion a second.
let's try this, all opposed.
Or
All unopposed?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 2, 3,
I'll have to count them.
4. You too, Mr. Simp? Sir. All righty then.
He's still counting them.
That makes it simple.
You don't have to count them. It's usually just the loudest ones.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That's it.
well, I make a motion that we adjourn them.
Second.
Second.
All opposed?
Ah. He's doing it backwards.
All right, Claudia, I think we're done.